Sorry, you're wearing your Falcons gear. What the hell, man?
Yeah, sorry, dude.
It's a bad week to be in Georgia.
This is Campus Lore Live, where NFL players are the experts on college football. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside Aaron Murray. And on this week's episode, we're joined by Pharoh Cooper, South Carolina alum. They had a pretty good weekend, and a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Aaron, 7 weeks of college football are done. We are halfway through the 2019 season, and what a weekend it was. With that being said, we need to dive right into it and talk about who impressed us the most. A top 10 matchup in the SEC, the Red River Shootout, and those Wisconsin Badgers, they look serious.
I think Oklahoma, the way they won that football game, because we look at last year's game, 48-45 versus Texas.
Yeah.
And we talk about this Oklahoma defense getting better this year. They did. That Murray linebacker, the kid.
Oh, yeah. Alex Grinch has those guys playing.
I mean, they were all over Sam Ehlinger the entire day. So now you're looking at an Oklahoma offense who is explosive with Jalen Hurts and all the receivers and all the talent, the ability to go up and down the field. And then now you throw in a defense on top of that can get after the quarterback, that can stop one of the best offenses in the country in Texas. This is now a dangerous team heading into the rest of the season. And you look at their schedule, I'm not going to say it's a cupcake schedule, but they should win out. And then now they've proven that Texas is not on the same level as them. They will win that conference. And just like Clemson, a very easy path to get into the playoffs right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Oklahoma beat Texas 34-27. Everybody, again, was expecting that high-scoring game. Jalen Hurts was reined in a little bit. He showed that he was human at times, but that Oklahoma defense really was able to contain Sam Ehlinger, and Texas was not able to put up the amount of points.
I think it was more self-inflicting wounds for Jalen.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you don't want to take the playmaker of a quarterback or any player. You want them to be loose, have fun. I mean, you see him putting the ball behind his back.
Yeah.
The one interception, he's rolling to the right, and you're always taught as a quarterback. I mean, I was taught this, the first thing in Pee Wee football. If you're rolling to the right, don't throw it back to the left. Whatever you do, if you're going left, don't throw it back to the right. Bad things are going to happen. He was just trying to make a play, throw his interception. Another time he's running the football. You're taught also if you're running in the sidelines to your left, ball's in your left hand. Running on the right side, ball's in your right hand, just so you can protect yourself a little bit. He had it in his right. Safety comes, knocks it out, fumble. So
yeah.
I think some stuff that he's not going to do a second time. This was all, like I said, self-inflicting wounds for himself, but he managed to bounce back from all those turnovers, come back, have a heck of a football game, big-time win for that program. So they impressed me. And another team, LSU.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
LSU at home, that place. I mean, I'm watching game day, and they're frying like big old gators. I mean,
was awesome.
Those fans were
Baton Rouge.
juiced. Those fans were on a different level. And the way they played, Joe Burrow, 21 of 24.
It's crazy.
21 of 24 versus Todd Grantham. And you saw Todd Grantham in practice every day.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Todd Grantham in practice every day. That defense ain't no joke. It is tough. It is confusing. They got skill on that defensive side of the football. And he made him look like a Pop Warner team.
Let's talk about that, because LSU was ranked number 5. Florida was ranked number 7, both undefeated teams from the SEC. Obviously, the home field advantage was legitimate. Everybody knew going into Death Valley, night game, they say where opponents' dreams go to die. It happened on Saturday night when Florida's 2 defensive ends went out of the game. That really changed. And then I want to ask you, as a quarterback, what was Dan Mullen doing? Because Kyle Trask was balling. Florida's quarterback was carving up LSU. They were getting down the field. They were putting points on the board. They were winning for a majority of the football game. And then in the weirdest points of the game, Dan Mullen would pull him out and put Emory Jones in, completely throwing the offense's momentum off kilter. And I'm sitting there at home going, what is he doing? What is he seeing that I'm not?
Well, I'm screaming at the TV in the bar up in Colorado Springs watching the game. And go back to your first point with the defensive end, that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because there was one play in that game where you saw a miscommunication. 2 defensive ends were actually on the same side, and you're like, one guy's like, no, get your butt over there on that side, get over there. He was late. The entire right side of the offensive line just caved the whole left side in, the linebackers, D-line, and it was like a 30-yard touchdown. I mean, that's the miscommunication when injuries start to build up. Big plays happen for the opposing team, and that happened to this Florida defense this past weekend. But Kyle Trask was, like you said, I mean, he was going boom, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, he was step for step, stride for stride with LSU and their offense. And then it's like a pitcher throwing a perfect game. and then you just want to randomly yank him.
So
it's
weird.
I know there's a plan to get Emory Jones in there, and you want to get him in there, the threat of running, but at the end of the day, and I go back to when Tim Tebow was a freshman. And Tim was kind of the big bruising back. Chris Leak was the starter, but you get inside the 5-yard line, or if it's 3rd and short or 4th and short, it's Tim time.
Yeah.
It's time to put Tebow
245 pounds,
big,
tuck it and
strong
run. Yeah.
running back. Maybe he'll give you a jump pass here or there, but he was there to be a bulldozer. Emory's not a bulldozer.
Yeah.
Emory's 200 pounds. Kyle Trask is bigger than Emory Jones. So if it's that situation, why not keep Kyle Trask in there and run with him? I mean, he's a good athlete. He can run. Not the same dynamic, but size-wise, I'd rather him kind of gain a yard or two if need be. So you send him off the field. You put Emory in. Emory doesn't get it done for a job. And then you look over the sideline. Kyle Trask is sitting there, and then Dan Mullen's whispering in his ear. He's like, hey, you're in. And Kyle's like, really? I'm in?
Shocking.
Just shocking. He's like, okay, I'll go back in there. Your rhythm's thrown off. It's completely thrown off. The pick was his fault. He shouldn't have thrown that football. But still, as a quarterback, you're moving down the field. You get pulled, put back in. It's just, I don't like it. I think Dan Mullen is going to go back, watch the film, and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Wrong move. I need to clean this up going forward and figure that out, because they score right there. They tied up at 35, and who knows what happens from there.
There's no doubt. I mean, at one point in the game, Florida was up 28-20 or 28-21.
Yep.
And they lost 42-28. I mean, they were rolling. Offensive momentum completely stopped. The game flipped. LSU wins by 14 points, gets a huge home victory, which leads me to my next point. Who's going to finish this season undefeated? Let me throw one team out at you, okay, right now, and it's in the Big Ten. The Wisconsin Badgers. They notched their 4th shutout of the season so far. 4 shutouts out of 6 games. This team is seriously impressive. Jim Leonard is leading that defense on an absolute tear. They will play Ohio State in a couple of weeks. Those 2 teams, again, are in 2 different divisions, so they could rematch at the end of the season. It's all going to play itself out. Bama plays LSU on November 9th. Florida lost. Obviously, they're out of that conversation. But is any team going to go undefeated through conference championship weekend? Do you see that legit?
Well, I think that the team that has the best chance is Oklahoma, just based on their schedule. I mean, Ohio State still has to play, like you said, has to play Wisconsin in 2 weeks. They have to play Penn State.
Yep.
And they have to play Michigan.
And
at Michigan.
And the Big Ten championship.
So this is a situation where you beat Wisconsin, and like you said, you might have to play them again. It's so tough at any level to beat a team twice. It is. They know you a little bit better. The game's always a little bit closer. So, and honestly, Wisconsin could win.
Yeah.
I mean, the game, luckily for them in Ohio State, they get to play Penn State and Wisconsin at home, which is a huge advantage in that conference. But still, this is a great Wisconsin team, and they have everything you want to be successful. Defense, lights out. Best running back in college football. And Cohn, their quarterback, not turning the ball over, high completion percentage. He's getting the job done. He is anti-Alex Hornibrook. He is the complete opposite of what we saw at quarterback last year for Wisconsin. This is a great football team. I mean, that is going to be, in my opinion, one of the best games of the weeks, one of the best games of the year in 2 weeks when those teams match up.
For sure. I would have to say I feel pretty good about whoever wins that Bama-LSU matchup at the SEC West. They will be undefeated heading into the SEC championship game, They both have to still play Auburn after that matchup. But I think based on what I saw from Florida and Georgia this past weekend, the SEC West is going to be looking pretty good if they head into the SEC championship undefeated. You just mentioned Cohn playing efficient quarterbacking. I want to ask you, who's the best quarterback in the SEC? We're seeing some unbelievable play there from 2 specific guys. Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama, Joe Burrow at LSU. These guys' statistics, Aaron, they're absolutely insane. Both have thrown over for 2,000 yards already. Tua has 27 touchdowns. Burrow has 25. They both have 2 rushing touchdowns. Burrow's completion percentage is 79.6%. Tua's is 73.6%. Let me just tell you right now, Joe Burrow is the better quarterback. He's the better pro prospect. Put me at quarterback for Alabama. These guys are wide ass open.
He threw a swing route. So it's a 3-by-1 formation. If you have numbers, you throw it to number 3 guy, 2 outside guys block. He threw a swing route for a 30-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
And then another slant for another 30, 40-yard touchdown. I mean, it's LSU has weapons, but not Alabama. If you're going to grade Alabama, you give them an A+ when it comes to the
Joe
receiver.
Burrow is in a pro-style offense.
Yes. So to me right now, I'm calling the Dolphins and I'm telling them, listen, you better pick Joe Burrow. This dude is.
You can't go into over Burrow. I don't think so. It doesn't translate.
No, you said it. I mean, the offense is it's the most pro-style offense. It's literally what you're watching on Sunday is what they're running there in Baton Rouge. I mean, it is everything that you want when it comes to that transition to that next level. The size is there, the arm strength is there, the accuracy is there, the mobility is great. I mean, he's like a creative player almost this year.
Yeah.
There's nothing that this kid does not have that isn't perfect for that next level. So I think he's going to be the right match for, like I'm telling you, if I'm the Dolphins, I am picking Joe Burrow with the first pick of the draft.
All right. Well, hey, I mean, you said it. You would know. You're the SEC's all-time leading passer with touchdowns and yardage. So I would have to agree with you, though.
Yeah.
I would definitely have to agree with you. You talk about Jack Cohn at Wisconsin, Big Ten. Justin Fields, Big Ten. Quick answer, who's the better conference through 7 weeks, the SEC or the Big Ten?
Whew, it's neck and neck right now. I mean, there's so much talent in that Big Ten. Ohio State, obviously, I think I will continue to say this right now is the best team in the country.
Better
in my
than
opinion.
LSU.
I would put they've playing great defense.
Who've they played?
They're playing better defense though. LSU right now, their defense is a question mark. You were at home,
Yeah.
versus Florida, against a quarterback who's never played a road game, hasn't started a game since his freshman year until about a month ago, was the backup heading into the season. He put 28 points against you. And like I said, you had everything going for you. You had the loudest environment in college football, 8 o'clock game, and Florida still went up and down the field. So defensively, to me, there's still a long way to go from being an elite team and a complete football team. Where you look at Ohio State, great offense, great run game, great quarterback, and a defense that's dominating the football right now. So Ohio State's number one. Penn State looks great. Wisconsin, we can't say enough good things about them. Big Ten is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I may be a little biased. I'm going to go SEC just because we
I was
played
about to
there.
say, where are we going?
Where are
with
we
this?
going there?
Come on, the rankings
I'll reel
are
it
out.
back in. I'll reel it back in.
Alabama's
SEC.
number 1, LSU's number 2, Florida, Georgia's still in the top 10,
Yep.
and that brings me to Georgia. Let's wrap up kind of what happened in Week 7. Georgia, the number 3 team in America, was at home. They were a 21.5-point favorite, and they lost in double overtime to South Carolina. 20-17, 4 turnovers. That's really the story. You can listen to the coach's press conference after the game. You can look at the statistics, but one glaring thing, Aaron, and you know this. I know this. Hopefully anybody who's watching this show knows it. If you commit 4 turnovers and don't get any in return, your chances to win the football game are close to 0.
Well, it's so crazy. They almost won the
I
football
know.
game with
It's
4
insane.
turnovers. And the biggest issue, and you and I were talking about this on Saturday night, the biggest issue with this team, because I had tons of people texting me, calling me, Aaron, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, why can't they score right now? Why can't they move the football? It's the receivers. Jake Fromm's not getting it done. The offensive line's not playing as well. None of that. I mean, obviously none of that was good. The biggest issue, my number one issue with this offense, there's no tight end. There's no threat of anything over the middle of the field. There's no threat of a tight end one-on-one with a linebacker. There's no threat of a tight end one-on-one with a safety. It's either we run the football or we throw balls on the outside. That's it. That is Georgia's offense right now. It's simple, but a tight end would open it up so much. I mean, you look at the best teams in the country, either they have elite receivers that can make a difference, where Georgia has good guys, but it's a catch and a tackle. It's not a catch and a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Or they have a really good tight end that you can kind of create matchups with. Like you look at Pitts for Florida, they can split him out, move him around, get him one-on-one with a linebacker, or get him one-on-one linebacker or a safety in the middle of the field. A tight end's going to win. Georgia does not have that. And when's the last time Georgia did not have an elite tight end?
Totally agree.
That's an issue. It's not going anywhere this season. I think it's going to hinder them going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Georgia. They have their backs firmly up against the wall. Luckily for them, Florida also lost last week. And so both those teams are heading into Week 8 exactly where they started for Week 7, but they have to win out if they want a chance at the college football playoff. And one team who could really hurt them is Oregon. Oregon crushed Colorado this past week, 45-3. If they continue to do that in the Pac-12 and boat race teams and win that conference, that could really present danger to a team in the SEC East who's looking to kind of upset an SEC West opponent in the conference championship to find their way into the national championship. It's going to be an interesting situation if Oregon's able to.
Well, the good thing with Oregon is their loss was the first week of the season.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what have you done for me lately?
For sure.
And ever since that one loss, they haven't given up over 20 points. The rest of the season, defense has been playing lights out. Justin Herbert's been playing lights out. So you look at Ohio State last year, a lot of close games, and then that loss to Purdue was like towards the end of the season. So it's very fresh on your mind, where we fast forward to December, and if they win out and win the Pac-12, no one's going to remember a loss to Auburn in August or the first week of September, whenever it was. They'll be like, okay, that was so long ago. So right now they're hitting their stride. If they continue to play like this and say a Clemson or Ohio State or an Oklahoma somehow fall, I wouldn't be opposed to putting Oregon in based on what we've seen so
For
far.
sure. A lot more football to go, that's for sure. One team that was kind of hanging their hat on their only loss so far is Notre Dame, and Notre Dame squeaked by USC 30-27 on Saturday night. Their only loss was to Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia lost. Now doesn't look as good for Notre Dame, but Notre Dame should not apologize for squeaking by USC. Yep. They got up quick. I think it was 20-3 at one point. You turn the TV back over to the game. It's a tight game. Look, it's a huge rivalry. It's South Bend at night. You never apologize for winning. No. And I don't think as a pollster or as a critic or as a media member / analyst, whatever you want to say, you're going to look back at this game and go, hey, well, Notre Dame only beat USC by 3. No, they won the game.
They won the game. That's the most important thing. Clay Helton, though,
yeah,
I think Clay's out. I think he's on his way out. You look at their schedule going forward, I can maybe see this team as a 7 or 8 win team. And is that really good enough? Is 7 or 8 wins at USC good enough to keep your job? I don't think it is. And that's like the best case scenario, 7 or 8 wins. I mean, they could be a team that could be 6-6 going forward. And I just, like I said, I don't think that's good enough to save his job going forward.
You're right, Aaron. Tough times in LA indeed. Who knows what USC is going to do with Clay Helton? Do they cut their losses now? Do they wait until after the season to fire him? Maybe they do it sooner than they think and get on the head coaching search. Hello, Urban Meyer, maybe, at USC. Speaking of another USC, the South Carolina Gamecocks, we are going to be joined next by Pharoh Cooper, who the Gamecocks beat up on our Bulldogs this past weekend. We'll see if he gives us a hard time. It will be well-deserved. We'll be right back with Pharoh. Tune in after the break. We are back, Campus Lore Live. Drew Butler, Aaron Murray, and it's time to be joined by our guest this week from South Carolina and currently with the Arizona Cardinals. Let's welcome in Pharoh Cooper. We'll get right to it. 2 Georgia guys talking to a South Carolina Gamecock. We all know what happened last weekend between the hedges. South Carolina gets a huge win in double overtime, 20-17. So congratulations off the bat. I'm sure you watched the game. What is that rivalry like to you, South Carolina and Georgia, 2 teams that are in real close proximity?
It's everything, man. In the SEC East, you got Georgia, Tennessee and Florida. So, those are your main competitors. So, every time we play in Georgia, you gotta step your game up playing those guys. They're always good every year in the playoffs. So, for us to come out with that win, it was a great win for our program.
So you played for Steve Spurrier, and I always wonder what it's like. I know as a quarterback, I feel like it's very stressful. You can be benched at any moment now. What was he like in the locker room? What was he like on game day? Was he as entertaining as it appears that he was from the outside?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Spurrier, like in the locker room, he didn't really come in the locker room much, but, at practice, like during, spring or summer, come out there with his shirt off, with his visor, man. He'll probably cancel practice a couple of times just to go golfing. But he was hilarious, man. He's very sarcastic. If he's getting on you, he'll make a sarcastic remark. But other than that, he's a funny guy. He likes clowning.
Coach Rick's definitely not coming to practice with his shirt off.
No, not that I remember.
That. No, definitely not.
Hey, Coach Spurrier never was afraid to let people know what he was thinking, and he had a lot of success on the field as well. Specifically, while at South Carolina, he did extremely well against Clemson. You mentioned the SEC East teams that the Gamecocks play and how important those matchups are week after week. What's that in-state rivalry like? Because us being from the Southeast, we know how competitive and intense that rivalry is. Let people around the nation know what the Palmetto Bowl is really like.
That's the only thing that matters in South Carolina, to be honest. South Carolina can lose every game on the schedule. And as long as they beat Clemson, they feel like, the job is done, for the year. So, that game is, taken very seriously. Everybody's a little extra pumped and for that game, the fans. So, they can't stand each other. Clemson, South Carolina is like, one of the biggest rivalries, I know about. So, that game is really everything down there in Columbia, South Carolina.
Talk to us a little bit about home field advantage at South Carolina, because I never played at LSU, never played in Baton Rouge. I didn't play in Alabama, but I played in Tennessee. I've been to games as a fan growing up in the Swamp. But playing there at South Carolina was the scariest place, in my opinion, when you all got sandstorm cranking, the towels are going, the fans are jumping. One of the loudest environments I've been a part of. Is that just super exciting for you guys? And do you feel the same energy that we feel as an opposing team?
Home field advantage in Willie B is always great for us. Noon games, but especially night games. I mean, that's kind of for everybody. But when we come out of that locker room and then after the national anthem and then they hit that sandstorm, that first beat, and everybody get their white towels, start waving them around, get on their feet. Just gives you that your heart should start beating real fast. For our team, it's just like, all right, we ready. We got the fans behind us. They're ready to go. I kind of feel bad for the opponent team because that's a scary sight to see when you seeing sandstorm, and especially when you get going and winning and scoring a lot of touchdowns. They don't stop.
Those 3:30 games are so tough, Aaron, at Willie B, especially when it's so damn hot in Columbia, South Carolina. I mean, it is brutal. And the night games as well. The fans are lit, as the kids like to say. But this weekend, they're taking on Florida. That's a great matchup in the SEC East with a little extra flair in the past couple of years because Coach Spurrier coming over from Florida. Florida obviously just lost to LSU. South Carolina coming off a huge victory. What do you think the atmosphere is going to be like from a fan perspective since the game is at noon? And what do you expect South Carolina to look like if Helinski can go or if Joyner, who was a wide receiver a couple weeks ago, will be the quarterback going up against that Florida defense?
It's gonna be. I feel like might be one of those, those trap games. South Carolina's, they're real high right now. Obviously, off beating number 3 Georgia, so they're real high right now. So they can kind of, sometimes you get overwhelmed with it. You think it can carry into next week without having to put all the work in. But hopefully, they can put it behind them. Try and come, beat a good Florida team in Willie B. That's gonna be a great advantage for us. Being that we are playing in William Bryce, Florida just came off that loss. So it's going to be a good game. I mean, it's going to be hot. I would like to say we have the advantage, but it's real hot in Florida too with some humidity down there. So they're going to be used to it. So hopefully they just go out there and fight, have a well executed game plan, and just try and beat those guys at home. It's going to be great since it's a home game too.
Something that's unique right now in the SEC is just all the talent at the quarterback position. I mean, there's so many good guys out there, but along with that are some of the best receivers we've seen in the history of the SEC. You got the guys at Alabama, you got the guys at LSU. Florida has a deep receiving core as well, and a bunch of other schools to go along with that. Who's really kind of caught your eye at the receiving position so far this season?
Obviously, I got to start with Brian Edwards, number 89 for South Carolina. Big body, real physical guy, putting them on jet sweeps, doing a lot of stuff, returning punts. So I've been watching him. Never got to play when he was younger than me, but I've always been watching him. I like his game a lot. And then just from watching them boys from Alabama, man, Ruggs and I think Smith, and then Jerry Jeudy. Those guys are out there, killing those guys. So I think Jerry Jeudy is probably the name that stands out the most when you think of college football receivers.
So, Pharoh, when you look at all these offenses, and we talked about the game coming up on November 9th, kind of going to go away from South Carolina here. LSU, Alabama, these two offenses are just on absolute rolls right now. How do you think that game plays out? You're an offensive player. You're in the NFL right now. Do you think those two teams will put 40 up on each other, or do you think the defenses will figure out a way to slow each other down?
To be honest, I think it's going to be a defensive game, and I feel like it's always defensive game when it's Alabama, LSU. I feel like the scores don't really be that high. It's going to be a tough, competitive game, obviously, but I just don't think their offense, because both teams know their offenses, are the strength, the strength of their team. So I feel like, D coordinators, head coach, they're going to be more focused on the defensive side of the ball that week, trying to slow everybody down.
Well, South Carolina certainly threw a wrench into the SEC picture this past weekend by upsetting Georgia. Tell me who's going to play in the SEC championship before we let you go.
Probably South Carolina versus Alabama.
Oh, wow. Okay, I like
Valencia's going to be healthy. They're going to go rolling soon.
But I would love to say that, man. It's tough, but I probably, to be honest, probably Georgia and Alabama. And if I had to, if I had to put some money on it, probably Georgia and Alabama if I was picking.
Round 3 could be for the Tide and the Dogs. Pharoh Cooper, thanks for taking it easy on 2 Georgia guys. Big ups to your boys in South Carolina. Let's see if they can follow it up with a big win at home this weekend against Florida. And good luck for the rest of the season. When we come back, we're going to break down Week 8, so tune in right after the break. This is Campus Lore Live. We are back, Campus Lore Live. Drew Butler, Aaron Murray. Big thanks to Pharoh Cooper. South Carolina Gamecocks had a big weekend. Maybe they can do it again.
He was nice to us, though. He
Florida.
didn't rub it in.
He took it easy on
I
us.
thought he was going to come in there with like a South Carolina shirt on.
I know, right? That would have been nice. And you know what?
I would have
They
done it if I was
deserved
him.
it.
No?
Of course, I would have as well. All right, we got Week 8 on the dock coming up this weekend. And before we talk about Week 8 and talk about our bold predictions for college football, let's kind of focus off the field, Aaron, because a lot has been happening off the field. You've got the transfer portal, you've got the red shirt rule, but I think the one thing that you and I can bring a certain perspective on is the Fair Pay to Play Act that California signed. Florida's trying to follow suit. And essentially what they are saying is that if you are a student athlete, you can make money off your name and likeness and not have it affect your amateur status with the NCAA. Now, the NCAA is, of course, pushing back on it, saying it will jeopardize college sports. I'm just going to tell you what I think off the bat. I have always thought that a meritocracy within college sports is just fine. You were a star quarterback at the University of Georgia. You put up a lot of numbers, won a lot of games, scored a lot of touchdowns. If somebody from a car dealership said, Aaron Murray, I would love for you to shoot a commercial for us, and in return, you can drive a dealer car for 8 months, I would say good for you. I mean, I was a punter. I think I did okay. Not a lot of people are going to ask punters to shoot commercials for car dealerships. So maybe that's just me, but I have no reason to see why this could be bad. If you're good enough, you get rewarded. If not, too bad.
Well, and if you want it, then go work harder. People
Yeah.
are like, well, it's not fair. Only the elite. It's the same thing in the
Welcome
NFL.
to life.
It's the same thing. Welcome to the NFL too. It just prepares you. Who are getting the deals in the NFL? Tom Brady, the quarterbacks, the running backs,
Yeah.
and the receivers. That's about it. And you know the offensive line. You know what they're saying to Tom Brady? Hey, buddy, I protect you. Go buy me a TV.
And guess what he does?
And he
buys him a
buys
TV.
a TV
Yeah.
along with like a four-wheeler or something like that. So listen, and then there's the general public that say, oh, well, you're on scholarship. You're getting a free education. Listen, I myself personally, and this isn't everyone, but I had good enough grades in high school. I could have stayed in the state of Florida and gone to school for free.
Yeah.
Florida Bright Futures, I would have stayed. I could have gone to Florida. I could have gone to Miami, Florida State, USF, UCF. Wherever I wanted to go, and I would have gone to school for free. And there's a lot of kids that go to school for free based on their academics. So this whole, oh, you're going to you get a free education, great. But I'm also bringing in a lot of money to this university, a ton of money.
Yes.
And I like this better than the universities having to pay. Because that's been the
Agreed.
talk in the years past of, okay, maybe the universities, they're making all this money, they should start dealing it out to the players. And I was like, that worries me in the fact that there's all these sports.
Title IX.
Then you have to worry about paying the gymnasts, the women's
equestrian
basketball,
team.
the equestrian. Then I think you open up a whole Pandora's box of
question.
issues. So I think this is better because it takes it out of the university's hands and it just puts it in the players' hands of if you're good enough to go out there and make some money, go do it. And I don't think it's going to go overboard either with the fact of kids' schedule is going to be nonstop of, he's going to go from class to this photo shoot to that signing.
No.
We were both in the NFL, and
Yeah.
we've been around really good football players. Their schedules are managed, and it's not every single day that they're having to do this stuff. So I don't think it'd be like that in college where you're worried about a kid being overloaded, doing too much endorsement stuff. And then I think it helps prepare them for the NFL. And then I think it also, I think it's just good for them to make some money. I'm all for it, man. I hope it happens soon.
I totally agree. And Florida's trying to get it enacted soon. I know California's looking at 2023. Florida, I think maybe 2020 or 2021. It'll be interesting to see what they do. One aspect that I do want to talk about is the amount of players who actually generate revenue for schools is so small.
Yep.
It is so small. Okay, let's just talk about players in the past. Tim Tebow, certainly one of them. Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cam Newton, yes, he made money off the field, probably in an illegal way, but he made it on the field for Auburn as well. Yourself, Todd Gurley, it's like one guy, maybe in the top 10 schools per year. It's not going to be a windfall of cash just flowing all over the place. And then let's look at the other side. University of North Carolina women's soccer, perennially fantastic, okay? I'm sure they get pretty good draws at their games. Maybe one of the best players of the women's soccer team gets to go do a shoot at who knows where. I'll just say a car dealership again. It makes sense. This is the best way to put it in the players' hands because the schools aren't having to do it, and that's what makes it fair.
Well, another something that people are worried about is the fact when it comes to recruiting now, where you get, say, a couple of car dealerships that, hey, you come here, we'll give you some money. So people are abusing it. But I say to them, the schools that are making all this money, they're recruiting because they have the best facilities, because they have the sweetest campuses, the best gear. I mean, all this other stuff where the donors are giving the money to the university. So if they're not giving it to the university, then they're just going to give it to the kids. So I don't see how it affects recruiting too much, but I know that's an argument from the ranks of the NCAA of saying it's going to get abused, it's going to be used in the wrong way, it's going to be used to lure kids to certain schools. I don't see that happening at an extreme rate. I just really don't. Maybe in say basketball where we've already seen some issues.
Yeah.
But I think there will never be a perfect solution at the end of the day. I think this is a better solution than what we have right now, and I think it's fair for the kids, and that's why I think you just got to kind of figure it as you go.
Yeah.
And there will be problems that arise. You fix them, you correct them, you make it a perfect system. You strive to make it a perfect system, but I think it's a far better than what we have currently.
It's the best introduction for student athletes to real life. It really is. If you're in corporate America, if you're in the NFL, the top of the top get the first pick. They're going to get the most money. They get elevated. It's just how it works. And look, to your point, if you want it, then
go work
be
harder.
Better.
Go
it's
work
as
harder.
simple.
It will
as
trickle
that.
down, though. I guarantee you.
I think it will too.
If I was making money when I was at college, I would take the offensive lineman to dinner.
Yeah, and that's
I would take the big boys to ice cream.
Yeah.
I'd take them to go get
ice
some
cream.
steaks,
That's it.
Some ice
I
cream,
need a steak.
steaks, and then ice cream.
Okay, good deal.
So I don't like. So let's talk a little bit about Tim Tebow though, and his comments about.
Yeah, that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
That bugged me because he's calling players selfish for wanting money. Like, Tim, you don't know where all these kids came from. Like,
Tim, I want to know your endorsement deals.
Yeah,
I mean, come on now.
Well, I mean, we go back to AJ Green.
Yeah.
And AJ was my redshirt freshman year, gets suspended for 4 games for selling a jersey to give his parents money. I mean, he didn't pocket that. He didn't go buy shoes and clothes. I mean, he sent that check home to his mom. You know, you calling him
real life stuff.
Are you calling him selfish for selling a jersey to get money to get it to his parents?
I guess Tim Tebow would.
Yeah, I guess Tim Tebow. I mean, but that's he's just so passionate, and I'm a fan of Tebow. I'm not saying,
of course, of course.
But I just think it was completely wrong of him to say everyone who wants money is selfish. That's.
I agree.
I think if you don't want money, you're kind of idiotic.
Yeah.
I mean, you live in a society where you're trying to better yourself, better your life. A lot of these kids, where they come from, the goal is to get out of that, to move forward for yourself, for your family. And if you can start that trend early on instead of waiting for the NFL, just like an AJ Green, sending money home, that doesn't make you selfish.
Yeah, money talks, the other stuff walks, and I think it's about to be introduced into the NCAA. So with that, that's a pretty bold take, I think, on both of ours. Let's talk on the field, and when we're saying be bold, let's get into it. Tell me something that maybe other people aren't thinking right now when looking at this season ahead.
That the game in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, LSU versus Alabama, is going to be over 80 combined points.
80?
80. It's going to be more than the Texas Oklahoma. And you know why? Because the quarterbacks are better. We look at Oklahoma, Texas, and no defense. There's going to be tons of points. Got 2 good quarterbacks. They're good quarterbacks. These are the elite of the elite going to be in this game. The 2 best quarterbacks in the country right now, it's Burrow and it's Tua. And then they're going to go against defenses that have not played well this season. I'm telling you, this game's going to be like 42-39, 45-42. It's going to be kooky.
Yeah.
Super kooky, but over 80 points. Take the over.
All right.
Take the over.
That is a solid tip from Aaron Murray. They're 3 weeks out of the big matchup. I'll go ahead and disagree with you, but we will get there when November 9th rolls around. My be bold, and you just mentioned one of the guys. I'm going to tell you right now, in middle of October, Joe Burrow from LSU is going to win the Heisman Trophy this year. He's going to win the Heisman Trophy, and you may look at me and say, that's not a very bold pick. Well, check the Las Vegas odds because he's not even in the top 2 right now. They're saying Tua, they're saying Jalen Hurts, and then it's Burrow, Fields.
You know, if you're in
Jonathan
3, though,
Taylor.
you still get the invite.
Well, he
to,
might get the invite, but I'm
invite.
talking about win the whole damn thing. And I think he really might. I understand the trophy has kind of become best player on best team. If LSU does beat Alabama, he may jump up to number 1. But his statistics and really the transformation of the LSU offense under him and Joe Brady has been nothing short of spectacular. I think Joe Burrow is in a very good spot to win the Heisman Trophy, and I'm telling you that on October the 14th.
Well, if he wins that game, or if LSU wins that game and he plays like he did versus Florida, which he can.
Yeah.
I mean, he can do that. There's no doubt about it based on what we've seen from this Alabama defense. He's my one right now. I'm with you on this one. I'm not going to disagree. I've been since week 2 saying Joe Burrow's the Heisman.
Yeah.
And he's special. He really is special and playing at an all-time high right now. And if he beats Alabama and he beats Auburn and he beats Georgia or Florida or whoever from the East makes it to Atlanta in the SEC Championship game, it's his. It is his, and that first pick in the draft is going to be his as well.
That's a tough task to say. He's just going to.
My man's making some money this year.
But he might do it.
Making some money.
He might do it. All right, let's look forward to Week 8. It's coming up quick. We got a Friday night game in the Big Ten. Ohio State's traveling to Evanston to take on Northwestern. Northwestern not having a good season whatsoever. But on this very show, a couple of weeks ago, we had Terry McLaurin on, who had 2 touchdowns yesterday for the Washington Redskins. And he told us when we asked him, what's the one spot where Ohio State could slip up? You're thinking Penn State game. You're thinking maybe Michigan. You know what he said? Friday night in Evanston against Northwestern. Different feel. Some would say a funky feel in Evanston. Tall grass, not a big crowd. Is Justin Fields and Ohio State on the verge of maybe a big-time upset?
Well, you know, I mean, we would go to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And it would be a noon game. It's not a Friday night game, but it's a different – it actually is an 11 o'clock kickoff based on, the time zone.
Yeah.
And it's weird. You walk in the stadium at Vanderbilt and it's quiet.
It's like a soccer field.
No, it's like a high school field.
Yeah,
It's like you're back at playing high school football over again. There's no energy in the crowd, and it's tough. It's tough to get as a player feeling really good at your best when you're used to playing in front of 100,000 people. Like you literally walk out there and it's dead. It feels like you're just playing a pickup game in the backyard. So they're going to have to overcome that. They're going to have to mentally make sure they're on their P's and Q's, but I think they're fine. I really do.
Northwestern's not good.
I don't see it as a slip-up last year where Purdue went and beat Ohio State.
Northwestern doesn't have the explosive offense.
They don't. I just don't see it happen. And so now Ohio State will take care of business this weekend versus Purdue.
I think Justin Fields should be able to take over that game. The one thing that I'm really concerned about, much more than Evanston or the atmosphere at Northwestern, is it's a Friday night. I mean, your body clock is completely thrown off. You've been training for Saturday games all through the summer, all through the spring, and you're mentally and physically ready to perform on Saturday afternoons or Saturday nights. It's on a Friday night. Could this be closer than maybe what some people think? Possibly, if Ohio State were to turn the ball over 4 times or 5 times, something crazy like that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they go in with a conservative game plan, take over, and let their athletes take care of Northwestern's athletes. Speaking of turning the ball over, Georgia did it 4 times last week. They are now turning around and welcoming Kentucky into Athens. They need a big-time bounce-back game with their bye week coming next week. Anything to expect from Georgia's offense? Are they going to try to reinvent the wheel, or are they going to go out there and try to assert their dominance and get a victory?
I don't think you can reinvent the wheel right now. You can't. You are who you are at this point in the season. You can't go out there and go get some free agents and say, hey, come in, we need a tight end. We need some more depth at receiver. I mean, you are who you are. And right now, they're a running football team. They're a team that can throw the ball 22 to 25 times a game. That's them, and they need to play great defense, and they can't turn the ball over. We knew they weren't going to score a ton of points this year. Like I said, their identity is run it, don't turn it over, and play good defense and win close football games. And last week, they turned the ball over. They played good defense, but and they didn't run the ball as well.
Yeah.
And you look at Kentucky right now, and it's a good Kentucky defense, not a great, but a good Kentucky defense. And Lynn Bowden Jr., who was a receiver, now quarterback, actually played pretty darn good last week. You watch him, and it's like a triple option. He's in there.
A lot of wildcat.
It's pretty much a wildcat, but he does have the ability to throw.
Yeah.
And he was a little hesitant at times throwing the football. He looked like he was trying to guide it, but overall, high completion percentage. His legs are very tough. So you want to talk about shortening a game up? He can kind of take over a game. I'm sure Kentucky's going to try to slow play it, take control of the clock, not make sure Georgia's offense is on the sideline, try to wear Georgia's defense down a little bit. This could be a closer game than people think just for that aspect of he's a wildcat. He's
Yeah.
a true wildcat,
Yeah.
honestly.
Literally and
and he
figuratively.
can take over a game with his legs.
Yeah, I think Georgia's in a good spot to bounce back. Look, I think Florida, who we're going to talk about in a second, is in the same situation where you have to get a win head into the bye week, set up that Georgia-Florida game to make it really that SEC East final feel. I know they got some more work to do. I think Georgia wins. It may be a little bit closer than planned. Speaking of Florida, they're heading to Columbia. They're going to take on South Carolina. This is a great SEC East rivalry. You know South Carolina's feeling confident after knocking off Georgia a week ago. The kickoff is at noon in Columbia in Williams-Brice Stadium. And I'm not sure if Ryan Helinski is going to be playing or not for the Gamecocks, but could Florida, after traveling to LSU in a night game, and then they have to get up, go to South Carolina, 2 consecutive road games, play at noon. This is a quick turnaround for the Gators. I wonder how they're going to respond.
Well, it's not only a quick turn. I mean, this is the 2 toughest places to play in the SEC.
Yeah.
LSU is the toughest, Baton Rouge is the toughest, and I've played in Tennessee.
Yep.
We've played in Tennessee, and I've played in South Carolina, and South Carolina was a tougher venue to play in.
Yeah.
It's louder. The fans are nonstop, and they're pumped up because they just beat the number 3 team in the country. So
I could not
guarantee
agree with you more.
They're going to be tailgating the entire week. They
Yes.
probably have not stopped drinking, and they're going to be ready to go. So it is going to be a loud, tough environment. Florida's going to be bruised up, banged up, coming off that tough loss to LSU.
A lot of travel. It's just tough.
The only key for me is Helinski going to play?
Yeah.
If Helinski is not playing, I like Florida. If Helinski is playing, I
Watch
think
out.
this could be a sneaky good game that South Carolina may pull out 2 upsets in a row.
Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic game in the SEC. I think it's going to be up to Dan Mullen, sticking with Kyle Trask. Dance with the one who brought you. He's playing pretty dang well right now. I don't think there's any need to throw Emory Jones in there, but I think Florida squeaks out a victory heading into the bye to set up that great cocktail party in Jacksonville. Let's head out west. Oregon, who beat up on Colorado last week, is taking on Washington, who's really picked up their play as well. A good matchup here. 2 great quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Jacob Eason. Oregon needs this win, but Seattle, we talk to players from the Pac-12 on this very show week after week, and they say Washington and Seattle is one of the toughest places to play.
It's one of the toughest places to play, but I like Oregon. I like the way they're playing defense right now. I mean, they're shutting opponents out.
Yeah.
I mean, really not giving up even over 15 points these last few weeks. So I like the way they're playing defense. I don't like the way Washington's playing offense.
Yeah.
It's been 2 hit or miss this year. It's been up, it's been down. There's been no consistency. They can keep it close because it's at home, but I think Oregon is a team on a mission right now. I like Oregon, even that first loss to Auburn. They had opportunities to put that game away the entire football game, missed touchdowns, turnovers in the red zone. I mean, they should have won. They should be, in my opinion, they should be undefeated.
Absolutely.
They really should be. This is a good football team. Great defense, great quarterback. I like them to go in and get the road win this weekend.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Look, this is pretty much going to decide the Pac-12 North. I'll lean with Justin Herbert, but more importantly, Oregon's defense. Defense travels,
Yes,
right?
defense
And I
travels.
think that will be the biggest difference here, regardless of venue. I know it's a 3:30 kick up there in Seattle. Oregon should be able to get a much-needed victory to continue their dominance throughout the Pac-12. Let's wrap this thing up. Big game up in Happy Valley. Michigan is going to take on Penn State. It's a night game. I would expect it to be your classic whiteout game for Penn State, and they are playing a good brand of football right now. They're undefeated. Look, Michigan not very imaginative or creative on offense. They might get exposed again. I think Penn State's in a good spot here.
Shea Patterson's going to throw 3 picks. That
3 picks?
That should have been my Be Bold of the week.
Okay, wow.
I mean-
How do you really feel?
I'm not happy with Shea right now. It's been a tough go for this offense for Michigan. There's no question about that. And this is a good Penn State defense. And it's at home. And you said whiteout, crazy environment. It's going to be tough for communication. Shea has not looked good this entire season. And you look at the other side, Clifford's been tremendous, the quarterback for Penn State. 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, taking care of the football, very accurate. He's at home. Penn State wins this game, and I think they may run away with it.
Wow.
Michigan has no offense. There's no offense. There's no creativity. There's no accuracy. The running backs are big. They're not very fast. There's no explosion at all.
Yeah, I mean,
This could be a single-digit game for Michigan. On
no
the offensive side of
doubt.
football.
And a lot of people on this show, Terry McLaurin was one of them, again, going back to him from Ohio State, said those whiteout games in Happy Valley are something serious. So I think that home field advantage and Shea Patterson being, I guess what you would say, a bum at quarterback with projected 3 interceptions this weekend could make it a little tough for
What
Michigan.
is the over-under for Shea for picks for the week, I wonder?
2.5. Let's just put it there. The Aaron Murray 2.5. Harbaugh needs a win. I don't think he's going to get it. No. Penn State's going to get the victory and remain undefeated to set up an awesome clash with Ohio State. Definitely a big game in Happy Valley, and Coach Harbaugh needs this win in the worst way for himself and for the Michigan Wolverines. We'll certainly see if they are able to do that and get an upset victory against the Nittany Lions. Well, that's it for us. I'm looking forward to Week 8. This college football season is absolutely flying by. A huge thanks to our guest this week, Pharoh Cooper. For Aaron, I'm Drew. We'll see y'all next week.